Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg have been writing and producing comedy since they're in their teens. Over the years, they've made everything from low-budget, independent stoner comedies to blockbuster and action stoner comedies. And while their movies might not be Citizen Kane, they always toe the line between good critical reception and wide audience appeal. They have long since proved their staying power and relevance in the Hollywood movie, TV, LA, cinema world thing. So I just wanted to take a look at what it is they do so well. No matter how big and out there their ideas may originally seem, at their core, they all have a very simple, very relatable theme, which is key to making their ideas work for a number of reasons. These themes help hook audiences in and give them a reason to care, but it also helps them stay interested in their own idea, because they could be working on this movie for years, so there has to be something about it that they're excited to share with the world, other than the fact that they wanted to put a guy with a butt for a mouth on television.
Some people lose steam on their own ideas just because they slowly realize they don't like them as much as they hope they did. So pick an idea that you are really passionate about, and that will help you finish.
So when you're trying to write your next Seth and Evan script, start by asking yourself, what have you been thinking about lately? What's changed in your life? What is your opinion about something that's happening in the world? How have you been feeling? And the answer to these questions will hopefully give you the emotional core of your movie. And then that's something that you can start adding stoner dick jokes to, which is great, I guess.
With me and Evan, especially, the only thing that lets us know if an idea is good is if we keep thinking about it for a long time. We come up with, 5 times a week, one of us will turn to the other and be like, make a funny movie? This. This would make a funny movie idea. Oh, maybe we should make a movie about this. The ones that become movies are the ones where 3 years later, we're still being like, oh, and then you know what else could happen in that movie?
As Seth Rogen emphasizes, we always try to write from a place of personal experience. Inject your scripts with your personal anecdotes, observations, and genuine feelings. This not only adds a layer of authenticity, but it also provides a unique touch that connects with the audience. And again, it's just something that you can care about.
Just something quick like that. Don't stop it.
That's why we wrote Superbad. We were like, let's write our favorite movie. Let's write the movie that we want to see and no one else is making. And it was the same thing with Pineapple Express. This is the end. And The Boys was a comic book we loved. We were like, let's make this. No one else is going to let's make this into something, It's the same thing with everything that we've done for the most part, which is let's make the thing we want more than anything.
Why not make the thing that you think other people will want?
Because who the fuck knows what other people want?
I'm not a very good cook. I'm okay, I'm learning, but I'm not great. But something I learned recently about cooking is that you want to make sure you have contrast. You want to make sure you have flavors that contrast one another. Like if you have some sour, add something sweet, and something umami, and maybe another flavor. I don't know very many flavors. It'll make the whole dish just seem much more rich and flavorful and like a proper meal. Movies are the same. You always want to look for contrast, and that can come in so many different forms. So you can start introducing conflicting elements, like having a lazy stoner in an action-packed adventure, or a confrontational person whose best friend despises confrontation. This is something you want to be adding at every stage of the process. So when you're coming up with characters, think how they can contrast each other. When you're creating the plot, think what themes you can have contrasting each other. What settings and scenarios will contrast the characters. How can events in the story contrast each other? And then when you're writing scenes, you should be thinking these same questions. How can your characters' wants be contrasted?
Almost every art is born of contrast, and so I think films are no different. It's combining different elements, and that's what makes the other element be featured, and so I think it is just modulating how funny is it versus how dramatic.
But ultimately, they have to be simple stories that would work if they weren't animated, or they didn't have demons, or they didn't have crazy visual effects or wild comedy. And so this is the end is just about a guy who has new friends and his old buddy doesn't mesh with them, and he just really wants everyone to get along, and they're not. And Sausage Party is about someone who goes on a hero's journey to try to help everybody realize that they're living a lie. And they're just simple things that could work in a plain drama, and that has to be there or nothing works.
Also, while creating your character, it's important to make them feel layered and multidimensional. Seth and Evan focus on giving their characters depth, flaws, and relatability. Make your characters feel real by infusing them with genuine human traits. The more multidimensional your characters, the easier it is for the audience to connect with them on a more personal level. While it may seem contradictory for like a video that's talking about like tips and stuff, something that Seth and Evan have said in a lot of interviews is that they're not very rigid with like storytelling rules and structure. They loosely follow a 3-act structure. I'm not going to break down how that goes. There's better videos on here for that. But fundamentally, the thing that they actually follow the most is that characters must change, and the emotional core that you've built your film around should be reflected in your character's transformation. A simple and effective rule to follow that applies to every movie made by Seth and Evan is Matthew Dix's 5-second moment of change.
Every story is about a singular moment. I call it 5 seconds. It can be 1 second, honestly. It's a moment of either transformation, meaning sort of I'm telling you a story about how I once used to be one kind of person and now I'm a new kind of person. Or more common is realization, which is I used to think something and then some stuff happened and now I think a new thing. And those changes, they take place sort of over time, or really what happens is it's an accumulation of events and feelings and thoughts that ultimately result in a singular moment where that flip actually happens. So 98% of the story is the context to bring that singular moment into fruition.
In essence, this approach involves starting the story from a point where the character is farthest from the change or realization that they're going to undergo later on.
Generally commit to the 3-act structure, but we also break all sorts of rules all the time. There are some things that are repeat themes in everything we do. Like characters need to change for people.
Yeah, that would be good. That's a good, yeah.
You know, and something relatable. Like I've seen some movies recently about like all powerful gods and stuff like that, and like you need something to anchor a human being to. But any rule can be broken. They're just like basic guidelines, and you can just shatter them if the moment's right.
Strike a balance between humour and emotional storytelling. As Evan Goldberg advises, find a balance between the jokes and the real emotional story. Infuse your script with moments that resonate emotionally, creating a well-rounded and memorable viewing experience. You can't just rely too much on stoner dick jokes. You also have to have a little bit of like a sad bit, basically. The sad friend moment has to happen, as well as the guy getting exploded into the ceiling. You have to have both.
To left! Oh! Jimmy, okay?
I'm fine. It wasn't as bad as it seemed. I'm fine.
Delta Psi has the upper hand.
At the same time, you're trying to think of like an emotional story. So that was a thing that was happening to us at the time, is like we had this kind of old group of friends and our new famous friends, and there was some at times conflict between those groups of friends, and that was something that we found itself on a list one day as we were writing emotional stories. You're just like, oh, there's conflict between like your friends from home and your new friends in your new life, and who's the better influence, and who are you? Are you the new friends or the old friends? And then again, slowly after years and years and years, that creates like an outline.
Seth and Evan will often simplify their movies by stripping away excess elements while maintaining a strong emotional core. That's an important bit, if you haven't noticed. I've said it a lot of times.
Makes me feel young again.
You can adapt this approach in your writing process by building lists. Start by finding your emotional core, we love to talk about it, then ask yourself what happens, who's it happening to, and what contrast can you add. Then write all these things down on some note cards and stick them up on a wall, and then just continue this process, going into specific scene ideas, more detailed character breakdowns. Eventually, you'll have enough cards that all you'll have to do is string them all together, and you've got a movie. It's as easy as that, mate.
Like, they start out as lists of just ideas. Like,
really?
With something like this at the end. Like, it was just, first it was like, we like this idea of like people playing themselves in a world that was supernatural. That was funny to us. That was
the initial.
That was probably
impulse.
one of the initial ideas.
Okay.
Was like, what if we would always joke about like Seth and Busta Rhymes versus the Ant-Men. That was like the joking, that was like the first incarnation of the idea of like, it was like probably around when we started working on the Sony lot. So like, see all these random famous people around and like we would be like, oh, like it'd be funny if like we were stuck in one of these little situations with these people, you know? Then we just make lists of like ideas, like, okay, like what kind of apocalypse? Zombies, this, Christian apocalypse. Then that, we start to like that. And then it's like, okay, Christian apocalypse. And then horror movies in general, monsters, you're trapped somewhere, you're barricading yourself, you have limited resources, you start arguing with each other. And then just things, set pieces, fire, exorcism. And we do that for years. And then Darwinistically, your brain of the 200 ideas, your brain starts to gravitate towards like 60 of them. And those are the ones that you kind of start to organize a little bit in an order.
Another way to do this is to start by writing a log line for the whole movie on one card. Then write the beginning of the movie on one card and the end of the movie on another card. Then write the beginning on one, the middle on one, and the end on one. And you build this process out until you're writing the beginning, middle, and end of each specific scene. Although this doesn't necessarily account for the non-linear way in which most people have ideas, it's worth a shot as just like a fun writing exercise.
Find a lot of writers want to talk about, like, to me, I'm like, just write it. Let's just write it. Let's just see how it looks. Let's just try it. Just write it down. Like, and I think a lot of people are precious with writing, and a lot of people, it's like a big, they kind of like, they try to like, it's very like sanctimonious or something like that, but I try to like really just write different versions of things. I share a lot of early versions of things with like a group of people that I trust. I'm sending rough versions of things to people. I'll rewrite it instantly. I'll do 100 drafts of something, I'm really not precious with that,